welcome guys and gals. I'm back. I'm gonna try to rush through some stuff. It's a little late, so let's get started. I saw this on Twitter today. Here by Gregory Little. Dr. Greg Little posted it. I was like, well, let's look at it real quick. Let's pull it up. So this is a tablet, the Cincinnati tablet, 5 inches length, 3 inches width, ½ inch thick, made from very fine-grained sandstone, undoubtedly the most iconic prehistoric artifact yet found in downtown Cincinnati. It was recovered during the fall of 1841 when a grading team was removing a complex of human-made burial mounds near 5th and Mound Streets. A street called Mound Street, which today is a large UPS facility just west of Interstate 75. While removing the mound complex in preparation for road construction, workers began to uncover numerous exotic artifacts, including thin copper cutouts, well-made lithic tools, galena ore, mica, shell, bone, and copper beads, as well as perforated bear canine pendants, large marine shells, and 2 polished bone awls, or perforators. Etc. Feel free to read about this. The term Adena tabs refers to a rare type of artifact which has been recovered in contexts that associated with the Adena culture of the early woodland period, 1000 to 200 BC. As many as 13 have been found in Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, engraved in deep bas relief, and are generally made from fine-grained sandstone. Oh, okay. On one or both sides. So far, the exact use for the mysterious Adena tablets is unknown. However, few have been found with red ochre residue, mineral used to manufacture paint and dye on stylized surfaces. So maybe they were just painted and not like a purpose of them, but just decorated. I don't know. This leads some archaeologists to believe the tablets could have been used as stamps for body or fabric decoration. So this is a interpretation of them. It may also be that the tablets were used for other purposes, such as imprinting on pottery or as stenciling aids for tattooing. Basically, they're artistic. They don't have like a meaning per se, is the interpretation. I looked at this, I saw this right here. This segment right here. But specifically this, the way this bends and cuts across like chakras of shallograms. So for a quick reference, let's just pull up something like, say, maybe one that's actually conjoined, like if this were to be fully conjoined, it would resemble this. So I was thinking, as soon as I saw this, I was like, wait, is it possible this is like currents? Is this currents? So I thought, if so, this is a chamber, like the outer boundary is a chamber. Maybe some nuance with these things that I'm not really picking up on both sides, as well as this region. But if it's currents, then I was looking at it like, well, let's see, this is maybe a start point here, and this looks like also a start point. Since they're identical, they look kind of like they're both start points if they're currents, where the current flows, and if that's the case, then they flow into each other, generally speaking. So I was thinking, like, here's an inlet, and then over here, at the end of all of this, this goes continuously. Notice there's not a break here, like here. There's a boundary between the two. There's a boundary. Not here either. Not here, not here, not here, not here, but all throughout here, and then here, not here, and then not here. So like this connects to this through a continuous connection of one unit that goes over here. And then if that's the case, well, essentially my thought is like if a current flows into a chamber, maybe it behaves in certain ways where it fills the chamber by forming certain features. And one of the features is a vortex, a toroidal structure here that has two inlets interacting that then basically run into each other and go sideways. So there's this aspect of this tablet that if you notice, except for here, not this portion, within this boundary, not within this boundary, but everything else, if you just draw a line across and then mirror it, this, like going from here, this mirrors this, these two mirror this, this mirrors this, this mirrors this, three things with a circle, three things with a circle, this. So it's mirroring this again, mirrored. It's a little different in terms of like it's not directly above here, but it may just be like because it's artistically drawn or made, like it's not perfectly mirrored to a point where like it exactly mirrors, but it effectively mirrors. But then over here, going over here, that goes up and down. Up, when it goes up this way, it goes down and has these. So it mirrors here, mirror. This is all mirrored. Down here is mirrored here. Everything is mirrored except for this, which if you draw a line here, like this doesn't really mirror because it has this, but it doesn't have that down here. It has this, but it doesn't have that down here. So it's not really mirroring across the same axis. Okay, so I took a few moments to, where did I put it? Here. To do this. Initially I did this. Here's the one block that effectively looks like a toroidal structure sideways, looking into a shallogram. It looks like a shallogram, maybe with like relatively similar on both sides. I'll get into some thoughts, but let's pull this up. So I made this. Pretty proud of this. I think it might be legit. Like, I tried to look around at some others. They didn't immediately pop out. Admittedly, the Adena tablets, the tablets from this culture didn't immediately pop out as fitting the same, like, approach. I mean, it's possible, but it wasn't so blatant if it's the case. So basically, inlet flows in here, and then a mirror line, the balance point, like where the two interact and create a balance across, where they mirror the green and the green, the pink and the pink, mirror across. And then over here, when this current goes down, it then goes back generally and fills this space. This goes up and fills this space. So effectively, it's going down and this is going up, so they're colliding. So colliding currents, it's got this little structure that I drew here, or well, I put in this image to compare. So it looks like colliding currents, which really like reinforces the possibility. This also generally makes me think of currents. So these things make me think of like dendritic fingers reaching out and applying pressure to the surrounding chamber as this happens, it like forms support structures around it that then fill the space, producing like a boundary for this, so it doesn't like go bigger. This is like, my thought is currents come in, they flow across generally here, and over time the end result of their interaction is perhaps this. So I don't know if I started to try to draw it, but because I realized I don't think it just immediately starts following this current path. I really think it would be the end result. It's a little more complex than just drawing atop it. I would almost need to truly envision how it works. So I was thinking like this. It goes across here like this, but then it separates into two layers like this that have a chakra between them here. And then it separates more to like there. Oh, cool, I didn't know it did that. And more until finally it actually separates to like a reasonable amount that the structure is. And as it's doing this, it's also creating other structures that effectively start to branch off of it, like go up this way. Possibly it's what I was thinking is this, because it's a vortex. We know about shallograms that they form by current flows that go in both directions. And so like this goes this way, but this goes this way. But then over here, like it keeps going and goes around like that. So these really collide, but then this goes around, collides with this one, goes up. And this one collides with it and goes up. In a similar way to over here. And also this goes this way. And continues across in this way and around to go in this way, in this way. So we basically get both ways. Pardon my amazing drawing skills with my mouse here. Maybe I can do this. I was gonna make an animation, but where it goes like boop. But anyway, let's just keep going. So this basically would form this chakra. Chakra forms, and then this current goes this way, runs into it, and so notice this one, and this one, and then there's this here, and here, and then also here, like maybe going up this way, around there, where this one goes this way and goes up this way, around that way, and then vice versa, this goes around this way from the inlet, where this goes over and goes around this way. And then maybe continues like around here, while this one actually goes over here. Something of that nature. Maybe this also goes up. But effectively they kind of merge, but don't completely merge, is what I was thinking. So like it still goes, like one goes this way, one goes up in here, wraps around this wall, and goes across over and just wraps around in the resistance, and then it goes out over here and just fills this, creates this boundary. And then there's this, it's doing the same over here, so it's basically filling in this region with pressure. So then this segment here is then the next thing to interact. So basically it forms a boundary here where it goes up here and fills the pressure, where this goes down here, fills the pressure, but they interact so that they abut one another. And then similarly, it goes up this way, it goes up this way as well as this way, and just like over here, it kind of fills in this arc, but also is caused to go more that way, which then fills in this arc, which is caused to go that way, which fills in this arc, coupled with it going opposite direction. And in all these instances produce like a nucleus mound thing here, these dots. And same for over here, and same for down here, where it does the same as up there. So it just mirrors that as up there. So that, like, to me, is plausible as what's kind of going on, as well as over here. It goes into this little space, kind of like that. And then over here, like, maybe let's bring up shallograms real quick. Shallogram groups, and then cracks. I think this is the right one. Okay, so I've talked about this a lot. Cracks are like, so what's going on in a shallogram is there's a current flow wrapping around this way, like this, like basically a figure eight. But it's also going the other way, this way, where the difference is the material. So maybe the inlets here in this image, in these inlets, maybe they're not like identical. Like one is gross and one is subtle. One is large, like grained particles. The other is like subtle grained, small, like fine grained versus coarse, pretty much. So in so being, perhaps they behave similarly to this, where they go separate directions. So when these two currents go separate directions, what happens is they collide at relevant points and pressure builds. So at the very end, their collision from opposite directions, even though they're able to pass one another relatively unabated because they're different size particles, so the small can just pass between the large in the current flows, they still run into each other, and they do it especially at certain energetic points, which is in this case the end point here, the very far tip, which is pretty common. Like, that's not the only one. Here's another one that's pretty much the same positions at the top, at the bottom, at the very far end. And then over here, notice they're not at the far end, they're actually off this to like the sides of this. So if we go back to that other one, they're off the sides of this, they're not at the far end or quite the top and bottom of this lobe. So there's all these options where energetically the currents can create additional currents out. And when this happens right here, like, it doesn't inherently just do this, where it just has two little like etchings into the stone. It can also full-blown extend, like this, extend out of here, extend and create a lobe itself, like this. Like, that's how this happened. Was it started off with little fracture pass along the boundaries, and then it continued around until it fully etched out this block of material and then just removed it in the currents. Where over here it didn't get removed, it didn't get fully etched, it didn't even have a normal shape, it's rather abnormal. Maybe let's find one that's actually like another one. Here's another one where it's coming off like that and not really fully formed. So the point being, this one maybe starts relatively at what maybe is like a top point, like top. And then this one maybe is also top. And this one's bottom. And this one's bottom, maybe. Even though they're little, they're not centered. Like top and bottom tend to maybe be more like here and here. So they're a little off positionally, but it is rather like straight across. So, I don't know, just the thoughts. Another thought that I meant to mention, like these two currents come in, right? This comes this way, this comes this way. But then they collide, so they do the resistance thing where they bend. But because there's this chamber here, they actually run it. They bend this way, but they bend into a wall. Over into the chamber. Over here. So they, like this segment, perhaps, is partial, like in part related to that there's this boundary here, and like they're trying to bend this way, and they do, like they bend this way and start at a mirror line along this axis that then generally divides the structure. But because this is over here, this boundary is here, basically stuff going into it, like it doesn't just hang out there, like it causes a back current that contributes to making this spread apart, so it's not just like a thin layer spread apart, but also just have its final shape basically. Okay, so then over here though, like these two are coming out of the third position, the 1/3 position. Like this is a half, a quarter, a half, a quarter turn off of here, a quarter, half, 3/4 or another quarter, just the opposite direction. Whereas this is not like a quarter, it's more like a third. 2/3 and then 1, so it's not the same. These are more like the third positions. It's not coming off here, it's coming off of more like the thirds, both of them. So it made me think maybe like if this had more space over here, there's a boundary, so maybe without that boundary really holding pressure, like this perhaps could have formed more of like a larger lobe kind of thing that was actually much more part of this system here. But because there's not space, it ended up forming just like the current paths that allowed for the current over here to fill another space in the chamber. And how it did so was ultimately in this way, where it went up and then like down, down, and up, which then like generally were running into each other like this, causing just like a current across here as well, which maybe went around like this ultimately. As well as maybe a current up this way, going that way. Not exactly sure, but also like going out over here, but running into resistance. So it created this and went this way. It was more able to form this like divide in the middle, Not all waves have that divide in the middle, but they do that. Like a lot of times they'll be more like that. But this is a thing that can happen with current paths. So I would say it's perhaps happening here. And then ultimately just like as the current interacts, it fills the space. Fills the space. Fills this space. Fills this space. Fills this space. And does the same up here. But then that ends up filling the pressure. So everywhere is full of pressure, which then ends up putting current over here, which all of the pressure is like generally on the left side. So this current gets encouraged away from it, which then leads to an outlet like there kind of thing, opposite corner to the inlet, as well as opposite direction where this inlet goes up and down, whereas the outlets go to the side. So they're perpendicular in the path of their flow. Like, if this is not what it's showing, what are the odds that I could do this? What are the odds that I could do this and have it not actually be what it was meant to show? So let's take a look around Adena tablets. Images. Like, here's another one. Certainly has aspects where like this structure over here isn't by like disconnected. It's connected to this, which is connected to this, which is connected to this, connected over here, connected over here. Although this is disconnected, but this might be, it's missing some of it. So this might have gone up and over and connected down. This goes up and over. Maybe this connected in here. I mean, this whole side is connected. Everything is connected on this one to back here. So maybe this right here is an outlet as well in a similar way, where like the pressure fills and then it ends up having an outlet path over here form. I don't know. It's not as clear as the other one that something of that nature may be at play, but it's certainly not like so impossible as to not be a potential. So this one, here's another one. Like this one's way different. It looks much more like a face, but it also has these things which are similar to what's going on in this one, where it's got like things off of it in places of the similar nature. And then this, the teardrop type shape, like that's currents do teardrop type shapes, and then there's like a large teardrop with smaller ones within it. These, like they're also here, so like even though it looks like a face, maybe it's not a face. As far as this, I don't know what exactly to make of it. Maybe a current flow. I'm not sure what to make of this part. Maybe some kind of like conduit inlet channel. There's not an outlet on this one, like a bar on the side. So this one's much less fitting of what I was just talking about. This one looks similar in that it has like a face, two faces, but then this one, interesting. I haven't looked at all these, so I haven't seen this one yet. The Columbus Dispatch. This one is much more mirrored looking. It's hard to tell. I mean, looks like it's not identically mirrored, although it does look like they squeezed something in here that like is like that one. So maybe it's mirrored. It's just like drawn by hand, so it's not perfectly mirrored. It's not even like pre-sketched almost. So that one, this one, just by the way it's all connected, could feasibly have a similar nature where it's related to current paths. This possibly at the boundary between, like, it kind of makes me think of shallogram teeth that aren't always like in teeth being these things, but sometimes they're like in the rock, like this one I've here, for instance, especially disconnected ones. Although they tend to be connected. This one's exceptional because they're not fully conjoined, but makes me think of this. So it's possible. Here's another one, I guess. Let's see, just a glance at it. Does it have the outlet type of structure? I don't see any distinct outlet type bar. That was similar to these other two here. Another one, this one's broken, so we can't even see the full depiction. Is this? I don't think that's the same. How's this going? That's 30 minutes. It's just way less fitting on other ones, honestly. Like, it certainly seems possible. It's just way harder for me to just be like, boom. Like, I looked at that and I immediately started drawing. It was instantaneous. I saw that image and was like, I have to draw you. And I did this. Out of this. Yeah, so I don't want to just drag this on, and I don't want to change subjects, because I have so much to talk about. I've looked at ammonite and ammonite and ammonite stuff. I've found lectures. I've found more images that I'd really like to share. But last time I did a video where I started with one topic and then I just like half hour in I changed to a totally different topic and then I have another half hour of that kind of thing. I pretty much regretted it. I was like, probably should have separated that. It's hard to it's just hard to organize it when it's like midway through. Like, now I'm going to talk about Australia. I'm talking about shallogram, Australia, or something like that, where it's just like, doesn't quite work as well as if I'm just focusing one topic in a video. It's just harder to. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.